Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second day of the fourth International Symposium on Sustainable Logistics Belt and Road Initiative. I would like to express my gratitude to Toros University, the Faculty of Economic, Administrative and Social Science, the Department of International Trade and Logistics, and our esteemed partner, Turkish Logistics Association, Lazarski University, Birmingham City University, Monnet Excellence on Sustainability, the University of Tokyo, and Wismar University. We are grateful for their cooperation and support in making this symposium possible. Now, to deliver his second day opening speech, I would like to invite Associate Professor Ayhan Demirci, Head of International Trade and Logistics, Department of Toros University, Faculty of Economics, Administrative and Social Science.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues and fellow participants, welcome to the second day of the fourth International Symposium on Sustainable Logistics. It's truly a pleasure to be gathered here today, and I'm delighted to see such a diverse and knowledgeable audience in attendance. Yesterday, while following the sessions, I realized that this symposium serves as a crucial platform for the exchange of ideas and experience in the field of logistics and supply chain. Yesterday, we followed valuable keynote speakers, Dr. Ryuichi Shibasaki from Japan, Mr. Saad Arno from Jordan, Professor Ali Arnold from Germany, and Mr. Haldun Kavrar from Turkey, and also several scientific studies which were presented in I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to them for their inspiring presentations. I believe that today, again, this symposium will provide a platform for thought-provoking discussions, insightful presentations, and fruitful collaborations among esteemed researchers, industry experts, and practitioners from around the world. Today, we have meticulously created a comprehensive agenda that encompasses a diverse range of topics. First of all, we will take heed of valuable keynote speakers, Dr. Matteo Creglia from OECD, Associate Professor Manuel Morales from France, Professor Alexandra Laskowska-Rutkowska from Poland, and Mr. Kerem Kavrar from Turkey. And also, again, several studies will be presented in two parallel sessions. In advance, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to them. Let's use this platform to forge partnership, foster collaborations, and collectively contribute to a more sustainable future. Welcome to again for the second day of the symposium. Thank you, and I wish you all a fruitful and memorable symposium.
Thank you, Associate Professor Demirci. Before we proceed with the keynote speeches, let me remind you to hold your questions until the end of each presentation. This way we can ensure a structured and comprehensive discussion. And please finish your presentation on time. Today, we are honored to host distinguished keynote speakers who will shed light on important topics in the field. I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Matteo Creglia, Transport Model and Analysis at OECD, who will present on the topic of the low carbon technologies for road freight. Dr. Creglia, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the organizers for inviting the International Transport Forum to this conference. And I need to be enabled screen sharing by, sorry, one of the, if that's possible.
Yeah, it will be.
No worries.
Yeah, I think it's now possible.
Perfect. Good. So I wanted to give a short presentation on ways to decarbonize the road freight sector. We know that logistics are hugely important in our society, but they also have significant negative impacts in terms of carbon emissions and causing climate change. So we need to try and obviously, as part of this conference, look at how they can become more sustainable as well. So I'll aim for around a 20-minute presentation, and I'm very happy to answer any questions you may have afterwards. So before I start, a little introduction to who we are. We are the International Transport Forum, We are an intergovernmental organization housed administratively within the OECD in Paris. We as an organization have 69 member countries all around the world, many of the largest economies in the world. And together we act as a think tank, writing research pieces, helping our member governments with providing state-of-the-art advice on transport policy on a range of different topics. And we also organize the world's largest gathering of transport ministers every year in Germany. So I thought I would just throw that out there as a little introduction to who we are. I am an analyst at the ITF working on energy technologies. And every year, every 2 years, we do a large quantitative analysis, trying to understand where are we heading with the transport sector when it comes to tackling climate change. We look at all government policies around the world where possible to understand how are governments starting to promote low carbon technologies, how are they starting to promote shift to more sustainable transport modes, and we try and understand where is the sector heading. And we've seen a lot of positive developments recently. Lots of governments are starting to enact very important policies promoting low carbon technologies, promoting more sustainable transport modes. However, we are still not on track to meet Paris climate goals of limiting climate change to less than 2 degrees and towards 1.5 degrees. So you can see here in this figure our current ambition, including all of the policies that are currently announced globally, are still insufficient to bend the curve and start to reduce our carbon emissions globally. However, more is possible and more policy action will be necessary to meet these goals. So in today's presentation, I wanted to go over the main ways that we see that will be important to do this, specifically for the logistics sector and roads transport. So if we look at where emissions come from in the transport sector today, we can see here in green that, sorry, get my laser pointer. This dark green are heavy goods vehicles and road freight. These collectively account for 29% of global transport emissions. So road freight is a very, very significant sector, is the largest sector of emissions within freight transport. It's larger than shipping, maritime shipping. So it's very significant. And today I'll be going through ways that we see are particularly promising at reducing these emissions. So one way is to shift to more sustainable modes, in particular, where possible, shifting road freight to rail. And what this figure shows is ton kilometers, the total amount of freight activity, split over the different distances of journeys. So what we can see here is that the majority of the freight journeys that are over 3,000 kilometers, most of those are done by ships. These are not done by trucks, not really done by trains. Conversely, in the urban setting, of course, the majority of freight is done by heavy goods vehicles and light goods vehicles. And what this figure shows is how we expect these shares to change over time. What you can see here is that the majority of road freight on journeys below 1,000 kilometers is with heavy goods road vehicles, with a certain share of trains and ships as well. But unfortunately, we don't expect this to hugely change in terms of a share over time. This is partly because the overall amount of freight we expect to continue to increase. So wherever we can shift to rail, of course, we must do that. But globally, often there are very specific reasons why it's preferable to do road freight with road freight, which means that as a decarbonization method, it's of course hugely important, but there are limits to how much can be achieved here. Secondly, we can think about increasing the load factors of trucks. How many goods are carried with each truck? And again, there's lots of potential here, but that potential is limited. This figure shows for different types of vehicles what types of commodity groups are typically carried within them. And within this, how heavily loaded are these vehicles? So what it shows you is that in particular, lots of vehicles, particularly for agriculture, forestry, moving with chemicals and heavy goods, often have to return empty. They go from the farm to a port fully laden with their goods, but often they have to return empty. So this is sort of, I guess, a key constraint, which means that these load factors that we see today, some of them can be increased, but there's always going to be some limits into what is possible here. So the final factor is then looking at trying to stimulate other vehicle technologies, moving away from diesel vehicles to lower and zero emission vehicle technologies. And here we're seeing quite a lot of momentum globally at the moment. We're seeing a lot of governments have now started to sign up to initiatives such as this one, which is the Global Memorandum of Understanding on Zero Emission, Medium and Heavy Duty Vehicles. This aims to set targets for 30% of new sales of trucks to be zero emission by 2030 and 100% by 2040. And here we can see there have been a large number of countries that have now signed up for these targets, including Turkey, I might add. And other large countries such as the United States and other European countries. Sorry, someone, thank you. So we're seeing a lot of momentum on this. And here we see a key role that governments have to play in stimulating these technologies of zero emission road freight. To achieve our net zero goals by 2050 means that ideally by 2040, 100% of sales will be zero emission, because this is important to then allow the vehicle fleets to turn over, for older vehicles to leave the vehicle fleet. So even if 100% of sales are zero emission, it will still take a while for all of the vehicles on the road to then be low carbon. However, to achieve that means that sales have to start today if we're going to get to 100% by 2040, and we have to start building the infrastructure. So we see a clear role for governments to help in this transition, to help overcome some of the market risks that are currently there to try and achieve these goals. So the key question there is then, how should government intervene and which technologies should it support? So we think, crucially, there are a large number of different low carbon road freight technologies available today or available in the near future. And because there are lots of these technologies, there's a lot of technological uncertainty as well. Many people think one technology will win versus another. This uncertainty can potentially delay action, and we can't allow action to be delayed, because then decarbonization will be further postponed and climate change will become even more of a challenge. So there will never be the perfect solution, very obviously visible. So we argue that policymakers should judge things in terms of likelihoods. We think that some technologies are more likely than others to be successful. And to estimate which are the most likely, we see 4 key factors to consider. Firstly is the maturity of the technology. So for different technologies that you can see here on screen, so there's battery electric trucks at the top with stationary plug-in charging. We see other technologies such as battery swapping. This is proving very popular in China at the moment. A large number of zero-emission trucks are in China. 80% of the zero-emission trucks sold today are in China. So they are really moving very quickly forwards with this. The remainder are mostly in Europe and a limited number in North America. Other technologies are then things like hydrogen vehicles and then electric road system technologies. So these have overhead lines, similar to trains, where they get their electricity from overhead catenary lines or from induction technologies. And finally, there are things like biofuels and e-fuels. So firstly, we have to understand how these different technologies compare when it comes to their maturity. Some technologies are still quite early stage. They're still in early testing, and you can see this in terms of their technology readiness levels. So that's TRL. So in particular, hydrogen vehicles, some diesel, e-fuel vehicles are still quite early in terms of technology readiness, while as others, things like biofuels or battery electric trucks, we're seeing are already coming to markets now. The next is, will they be cost competitive? We've done a lot of analyses in-house to try and understand which of these are likely to be able to compete on costs with conventional diesel trucks. Often these zero-emission vehicles cost more to purchase, but then their operational costs are less. Particularly things like electricity is often cheaper and the vehicles are more efficient, meaning that the overall operational costs are less. So even if the purchase costs are higher, over the total cost of ownership of the vehicle, sometimes they can be less. And here we see quite a lot of differences between the technologies. The third is then what is their potential to be sustainable and low carbon? Here we see that technologies that can use electricity are likely to be more sustainable and low carbon than other technologies, particularly things like e-fuels, which are very inefficient to produce, are unlikely to be sustainable in the short term. And it will take a long time to develop sufficient amounts of these fuels sustainably for them to make a large impact on the road freight sector. Just as a point here, I would show this analysis. We've done some analyses on these ourselves, but this is a particularly good one done by the International Council on Clean Transportation, which shows the life cycle emissions of different road freight technologies. This shows how many emissions are produced over the lifetime of the vehicle for different technologies. So diesel and biofuels first, natural gas, which doesn't offer a huge improvement compared to diesel. Electric vehicles, which can have a very significant drop. This is showing for Europe. And while as hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles, currently most hydrogen is produced with fossil fuels, but in the future, if it was produced with renewables, then it could also offer a low carbon alternative. So this is important to note that even including things like the emissions from producing the battery, from producing vehicles, electric and zero emission options can already offer a very significant reduction in emissions compared to diesel vehicles. This differs a little bit throughout the world. Some regions that use less low carbon electricity, a lot of coal electricity, some of this could be a bit worse. But in general, we see that in most regions, electric or technologies that use electricity could be lower than diesel technologies in the near future. And finally, which of these technologies can be deployed quickly? Partly this is how close are they to market readiness, and how cost competitive will they be how much will the markets start pushing these on their own? And our conclusion at the moment is that battery electric options offer some of the highest potential to offer a low carbon technology option. They may not be able to decarbonize absolutely all journeys. Particularly, sometimes there will be some range limitations for the very, very longest journeys. However, we're seeing that the technologies are developing very quickly. The range of vehicles are likely to increase over time. And already a large share of road freight operations, particularly in urban settings, can already be achieved with electric options. Potentially in future, some of these other technologies may be necessary to fill in the small niche segments that might not be feasible with electric. But at the moment, we see and think that governments should start promoting electric options where possible to start decarbonizing the sector, given that they're already close to market deployment. I'll skip over these slides very quickly, but these are some of our analyses showing that how we see that electric options will be more cost competitive. We've done lots of scenarios looking at the uncertainty in different parameters, things like what if diesel prices are different, what if electricity prices are different, and how this might affect some of these conclusions. And in all of these, we see that electric options are likely to be adopted probably at the start of the early next decade, or even sooner if policy measures are put in place to stimulate their adoption. You can see here there's quite a lot of uncertainty in when this might happen. This is partly due to uncertainty in things like diesel prices, but in general, in many of these scenarios, we've done here over 1,000 scenarios, we see that in most of them, electric options will be adopted preferably, and diesel options will slowly be reduced over time. Hydrogen options will struggle to be adopted into the market for the vast majority of the market segments, but potentially for some niche segments, they could play a role. And sorry, just to say, we see this starting with small trucks in urban settings. This is where they will become cost competitive quickly, and larger trucks in the near future shortly after that. This figure then shows how that uncertainty can be reduced with certain policy measures. If governments can play a role in helping to reduce some of the financing costs, you can see that that uncertainty can be reduced, and the year that these vehicles can become cost competitive can be brought forwards. Similar things like purchase subsidies or carbon taxation can also help to reduce that level of uncertainty of when these technologies will become cost competitive and help to further stimulate their adoption. So we see clearly here that policy support can be really important for this. And we're seeing a number of governments are already putting in place things like carbon taxation. Germany has just put in a carbon tax of €200 per ton of carbon for the road freight sector. So this will help to stimulate their adoption. And just finally, before I finish, I thought I'd just show that this transition is happening now. What's exciting in looking in this space is that things are happening quickly. Lots of our preconceived ideas from even just 5 years ago are now often proving to be outdated. The technology is improving very, very quickly. This is just on my walk to work. There's a bakery truck nearby here in Paris that now already uses electric technologies to deliver bread. So this technology is already starting to happen. And I think that will continue to develop over time, hopefully with government support to help that. Obviously, at the moment, there still remain a small share of sales. This is a recent analysis, again, by the ICCT. It shows that currently, we're at the very start of this transition. For heavy-duty electric trucks, battery electric vehicles now account for around 1%. But already for light and medium trucks, for example, this one in the you can see in the photo, they already account for 6%. So, and we expect this to increase very significantly over time. Okay, good. So just to conclude then, we think that the technologies to shift away from diesel trucks will play a very significant role, in addition to other measures such as shifting to rail where possible, increasing load factors where possible. But we think the technologies will play a very, very significant role in the decarbonization of the road sector. There are lots of different technologies, and we need to be careful to not allow uncertainty between these to delay action. And governments should therefore support a limited number of the most promising technologies based on how likely they are to be successful. We think that of all of these technologies, battery electric vehicles are a low regret policy, and other technologies can potentially play a complementary role in future, but that most of the sector decarbonization will come from battery electric vehicles. And for this, governments need to play a key role in starting to stimulate charging infrastructure for these types of vehicles and help to introduce policies to help stimulate the vehicles to become cost competitive sooner, such as some of the ones I showed on screen. Good. I think that's around 25 minutes. I'm very happy to answer any questions you may have. If not, feel free to write me an email, and I'm happy to share the slides afterwards as well. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Craiglia. Any questions for Dr. Craiglia?
So actually, I have a question.
Of course.
Dr. Matteo, thank you very much for this wonderful, inspiring presentation. We also appreciate you accepting our invitation to represent such a valuable international organization as the OECD. I know that you write reports as a technical analyst for the OECD. I must say that I follow them as well. I have a brief question for you. As you mentioned in your presentation, different products transport by road freight show different carbon emission. But I wonder, just so maybe you don't know, you don't have any idea, but just my question, how many knowledge of countries among OECD, how about reducing carbon emission in road freight, especially through technical integration? So, you know, you said you collect lots of data from countries to analyze this kind of strategies, but how much knowledge they have?
Sorry, is the question how much knowledge do the governments have on these topics?
Yes, for the integration of the reduction carbon emission. What do you think about it?
So I think things are changing quickly. I think now a large number of governments have started to put in place policies to promote these technologies. Particularly, we're seeing in North America, Europe, and China. These are the main markets where these technologies and decarbonization policies are being put in place at the moment, specifically for trucks. Obviously, then for light-duty vehicles, we're seeing more globally lots of initiatives. For example, in Europe, a very significant piece of legislation that has passed now is known as the Alternative Fuels and Infrastructure Regulation, AFIR, which mandates governments to put in place charging infrastructure on the main roads of Europe, all main roads, all motorways within Europe. And obviously, this will be important for countries also like Turkey, which obviously have connections to Europe in terms of logistics as well. So we're seeing things are moving very quickly on this front, and governments are playing a key role here. Particularly, governments often have think tanks and academic institutions that provide policy advice to them, and yeah, we're seeing quite a lot of that. However, in different governments in different countries around the world, there's obviously still a huge potential to learn more about these topics a huge amount of capacity building and support that needs to be provided to governments around the world on these topics so that they can make then informed decisions on these. I think that answered, well, let me know if that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you
No
again.
problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Craiglia, again. Now I would like to give floor to Associate Professor Manuel Morales from Claremont Business School to deliver a speech on does innovation ecosystem facilitate circular economy system dynamics drivers in the European manufacturing system. Mr. Morales?
Yeah, hi everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can all hear you. Yeah, we all can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry for the slight delay, but I had some technical issues with my computer to be able to access.
That's okay.
Thank you very much. So thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation as keynote speaker in this symposium. I'm going to present one of my ongoing research on circular economy and a different approach, how it's important not to just integrate the supply chain management framework, which is very useful, by the way, but it can be, in some cases, a bit limited when we are discussing about micro innovation issues intra-firm. So this is why I'm going to present, if I can share my slides, just a few seconds. Okay, so can you see my slides?
Yeah, it's done.
Great. So as you previously mentioned, thanks for the sharp introduction of my research. The title of my presentation is Does Innovation Ecosystems Facilitate Circular Economy Implementation with systems dynamic drivers in the European textile sector? The initial title was about the manufacturing one, but since it's an ongoing research, my main case study, and it's also one of my projects that we are participating, is on the textile industry. And I think this is a very nice example of how we can use this innovation ecosystem framework in the textile industry in Europe. So going to the next slide, this is a bit of the outline, what we are going to see, what I'm going to talk about, starting for three main concepts. The concepts of circular economy, which is very well known by most of you guys. We are going to discuss a little bit about it. Also the ecosystem paradigm, how this ecosystems framework is most suitable when we're talking about innovation in the macro level analysis in the firms. And finally, of course, we want to develop a bit about the innovation paradigm. So what are the methodology that we have used? We use a multi-scale complexity to analyze the transitions in the circular economy in textile industry. We are going to develop a bit this case study on circular business for textiles in Europe. I'm going to give some samples of what we are doing here with EcoFortex project, which is a project that entitles to develop the biochemical recycling in order to reuse the textile fibers into the reutilization of more clothing production. And we will finalize with the description of the research design, and we will make some conclusions of the research. So without further to say, we can start by defining a bit what circular economy is. As you all know, circular economy has been attracting a lot of attention in the last 10 years, let's say. So the scope of circularity implementations has been expanding very much in the last years. We now know that we're talking about circularity. It's not just recycling. There are many, many other strategies that can and need to be applied when we are talking about circularity, including a long life extension of the products, materials, narrowing loops, which is related with the interconnection in between firms that are part of an ecosystem, better known as industrial symbiosis. We also talk about intensifying loops, which is the circular business innovation models. So how different ways of doing business can develop a more circular strategy in business. Like, for example, servitization, service as products, dematerialization, digitalization, so many different kinds of changing the way we are doing business now. Also slowing down, most of academics agree, most of the scholars agree that all the before mentioned strategies are worthless if we still increasing our consuming patterns. So at the same time that we are applying all those different optimization strategies for circularity, we also need to reduce our rate of consumption, or at least to do it in a more sustainable way. So those are the principles, just to be clear. And then we get into the main research question of this presentation, which is why supply chain management framework is not the best to analyze all only micro level issues. I mean, supply chain management, it's being used, and it's, I will say, the mainstream approach for circular economy, and this is for a reason. But it's mostly suitable for meso and macro issues, which means that issues that are beyond the boundaries of the firm. So when we need to integrate all the different actors of the supply chain management framework is one of the best, because we can better track flows, we can better track collaboration, integration, logistics, etc. But when we are dealing with micro level issues, intra-firm innovation, this kind of framework still leaves some missing points to be developed, and we will see why this is our hypothesis, and why also the case studies and the literature that we analyzed give us some good points to confirm, to validate that regarding specifically intensifying loops and the dematerializing loops that facilitate long life loops, those two are more suitable to be applied with the innovation ecosystem framework that we will develop in the coming slide. So thanks to the multi-level analysis transition, we can identify all the different principles that we can see in these three different circles. The first one, regarding biophysical materials, is in a macro level perspective. So we can see that this is defined by the closing loops principle. And this is very useful for supply. This very well addressed with supply chain analysis framework because of their characteristics, because it facilitates traceability and also quantification of exchanges. And then we have the micro level principles of circularity, which is integrated into of course, supply chain integration of the different actors of the production system, which is mainly by narrowing loops when we can find logistics, sharing platforms, industrial symbiosis, product use extension, etc. So this is also one of the best examples of how supply chain management could be very useful to better anticipate, estimate, and understand circularity in an ecosystem. But when we arrive to the last circle, which is the micro level, with the intra-firm innovation, the understanding of the role of all the different actors in the supply chain, it's of course necessary, but it's not enough. Because as we will see in the coming slides, we have other actors that are also very important, and as important as the actors participating in the supply chain. What are those actors? We're talking about the role that universities, research institutions, public actors, civil associations, and consumers associations are taking in the development of this innovation ecosystem that is influencing the implementation of circular economy strategies or circular business models in each one of the industries that are part of this ecosystem. Okay, so why we're proposing as an hypothesis that ecosystem could better handle this complexity that takes place in the micro level. So here is some of the literature findings that we identified in the literature review coming from Canada 2023, when we identified that ecosystems, it's one of the frameworks that suitable for better handling the complexity of the interdependencies, interactions in between many actors, many stakeholders, but also is taking this dynamic approach because it can handle the co-evolutionary interactions, and it can handle broader scopes, not just firms, but also businesses, business units, corporations, and industrial sectors in general. And last but not least, when we are talking about ecosystems, we are able to integrate in this framework the different dimensions of the microenvironment that are influencing the firm. What are those microenvironment dimensions? We can talk here about political, legal, economical, geographical, all those external contexts that are influencing the industry or the firm, which is not the case for the supply chain management framework, who doesn't give enough space to integrate the microenvironment into the decision-making process of the supply chain. It's mostly focused in the role that plays each and every one of the members of the supply chain. So yeah, to finalize on the ecosystem, what's the difference in between ecosystems and the supply chain? Mainly, we can identify these four variables, these four factors. We can integrate governance when we're talking about ecosystem. We can integrate customer orientation, which is something that has been somehow neglected in the supply chain analysis, in the supply chain framework, because it's much focused on the production part, which all the necessary interconnections in between the actors. However, the role of the customer has not been highlighted in this framework, at least from the accessible literature that we have reviewed. This is the pattern that we can identify. And it's more easily to have some feedback effects when we're talking about the ecosystem, because it can easily integrate the dynamics, the dynamic interaction. And last theoretical concept that we are going to bring into this presentation is the concept of innovation. So when we are going to develop this new hypothesis of framework, we start from the hypothesis that innovation is one of the main key variables. It's one of the key variables of circularity in the development of new circularity innovations in the textile sector. And we will show how, through our research design, we get able to confirm this situation. So many different kinds of innovation, just as a theoretical definition. We have from incremental to radical innovation inside intra-firm development to move circularity forward, but we also have different levels. And here is where the complexity also gets embedded into the circular ecosystems, because supply chain analysis is not able to integrate different levels of composition, from material to component level, and finalizing from ecosystems level, which is also one of the features of ecosystems innovation framework that brings this flexibility and this capacity to handle complexity into this approach. Okay. So getting into the, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm almost done, promise. Then I'm just presenting here what's the research methodology that we use in order to better understand this research, these assumptions. And we use the multi-scale complexity to better understand transitions. And we will see, as in this next slide, how this helps us to better identify the different principles of circularity in those three different layers, which we can identify as landscape for the macro, dominant regime for the meso level, when we kind of frame the deep structure, and finally the innovation niche for the micro level of analysis, where the intra-innovation takes place in the firms. And here we get into the case study that we're going to show you. We know that textile is one of the most important issues that need to be handled, not only in Europe, but worldwide, because there is a lot of textile waste that haven't been properly handled, properly managed. Most of it is just destined to incineration or to be in landfill. In the European Union, it's estimated to more than 9.35 million tons that currently are not really properly handled. And from this amount, only 15% is recycled, and most of them is downcycled. We only have in between 1 or maybe 2% that is used to produce again clothes or apparel. The rest is just for isolation, in building, in construction. Yes, it is recycled, but not really for the same quality of products that it used to be in the initial stage. So as we can see in this figure, here we're talking more about an ecosystem rather than into a supply chain. And why is that? Because we can identify in this circular business ecosystem different levels of actors and different circularity loops or feedback loops. For example, users needs to integrate into their behavior the way to recycle, but also how they are going to buy from the retailers, and the possibility to repair their clothes or to reuse their clothes, or to just reuse the materials of those clothes. So it's not a linear relationship in between different actors, but it's rather a different levels ecosystem when we can identify different interconnections. And in this figure, which is rather a bit complex, we haven't even integrated the role of government, research institutions, universities, civil associations, which of course is gonna complexify even more. So that's why we start from the hypothesis that ecosystems framework understanding is much suitable for this kind of ecosystems, circular ecosystems for textile. One other example, this is from one of the research projects that we have been also in partnership with, collaborating with, the Relooping Fashion Initiative, which also use a circular business model into the approach of innovation ecosystem. And just to finalize, last couple of minutes, I'm presenting here how we get to confirm with the available data that we got from a panel of experts from 7 different countries, the causal effect, the causality of different variables that take place into the dynamics of the innovation ecosystem. So the idea, once we made this panel of experts, was to identify which of those 12 different variables were interrelated. So here we were interested about the causality. So how innovation, for example, is related into the development of skills and competences in the workforce. It's because there is innovation in the system that the workforce is pushed to develop more skills and competences, or is on the other way. It's because there are a high-skilled workforce that the system is developing innovation. So we were interested about this causality, and we came to this, what we call in system dynamics, a causal loops diagram, when we can identify the causality of the different loops. This is for the textile system in Europe, textile ecosystem in Europe, as one of the most important facts that we identify is that innovation is in the center of the causality of the circularity in the system. And innovation can be explained and influenced by mostly three of these variables, which are the internationalization, explaining innovation, the value added also, and the skills and competences. This doesn't mean that it's the only factors that are explaining innovation. However, in this specific context and in this specific sector for textiles, those three are, according to our experts, the main explainable variables. So we identify some of the proposed strategies of how we can develop this value added for circularity adoption, how internationalization of the environmental and regulation standards can also make innovation to move forward in the textile ecosystem, and finally, how skills and competences training for circularity can also make innovation to be developed in this textile system. And that's all. as a conclusion, we want to highlight that this is not an attempt to neglect the suitable and the useful characteristic of the supply chain analysis or the supply chain framework. However, we can validate that there is a missing scope, a missing or some research opportunities to be developed in the micro level when we talk about innovation in circular business models for the innovation using the ecosystems frame. So using this specific approach, we are more able to integrate more systemic and holistic perspectives, like the ones being used for systems dynamics. That's all from me. If you have any question or comment, please be free to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Morales. Any questions for Mr. Morales?
Yes, I have a question to Monnet Morales, if it's possible. Hi, it's Özgür. Thank you for your valuable presentation, first of all. And I have to ask about the first phase of the circular economy. The early phases of circular economy approaches were driven by insufficient resources, and business were unconcerned with today's climate and sustainability issues, you know. However, today's sustainable competitive strategies must include both of circular economic structure and consumer satisfaction, which measures by after-sales support or different items. So this also creates some dilemma about between the satisfaction of the customers and the creating more sustainable environment. So can you provide a novel method to this on micro size in near future about the movement of second-hand materials and maybe while transfer of customers' used items increases vehicle mobility, and it's possible that donors or second-hand dealers may shop for them more frequently also. So I have to ask about it. Can you provide novel method to this micro-sized near future novel method?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Özgür. It's a complex, not one single answer, I would say. But here I can divide the answer maybe into sides. One, as you previously mentioned, I think that we don't have to confuse the term circularity with sustainability, because there is not always this relation in between. I mean, there are, of course, we are trying to push circularity because in most of the cases it's more sustainable, but it doesn't mean that it's in all cases circularity head to sustainability. And we need to be very critical with that, try to analyze case by case, and depending on all the different variables that we have available, because there's also some rebound effects that also the literature can identify in a specific in the specific sectors, industrial sectors. But also the second part of my answer will be that you're right, and circularity, one of the most critical parts is that it's not really integrating the consumer behavior, the consumer patterns. And this is something that this ecosystems perspective, in comparison with the supply chain one, it's able to integrate. And we have, in some of the projects that we are developing, this also is in the early stage. I cannot say that it's the answer, but at least it gives us some hope into handle differently those new business models when we are able to integrate take back strategies where the consumer have a role to play, when we can also create secondary markets, as you said, when we can identify also the acceptability of the consumers into buying new clothes, but that has been developed with recycled materials, which is not always easy because consumers usually have this perception about low quality if it's coming from recycled materials, which is not really the case, or not always the case, because you have developed the technology as a chemical recycling technology. Those textiles have been decomposed into monomers to be retransformed again in polymers, so they have the exact same quality of a new fiber. However, the perception of the consumer is not always what it should be. And this is something that needs to be integrated into the analysis, bringing the consumer also as part of the equation. And this, I think, is something that this new kind of perspective into the micro level could help us to complete the relevance of the micro and the meso level.
Thank you.
Thank
you for your answer.
Thank you, Dr. Morales, again. Any more questions for Mr. Morales? Okay. Now, we have Professor Alexandra Laskowska-Rutkowska from Lazarski University, who will present on Belt and Road Initiative with focus on Green Commodity Supply Chain Index and green transportation. Professor Laskowska-Rutkowska, please, you can start.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello to everyone. So warm greetings from Warsaw. Nice to see you. Tell me, please, can you hear me? Can you see the presentation?
Yeah, we can all hear you and we can all see your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So first, let me express my gratitude for inviting me to this impressive symposium. So it is my great honor and pleasure to be one of the key speakers here. So thank you very much to the organizers for invitation. I was listening to yesterday's speeches of my distinguished colleagues, and they were really very, very interesting. So congratulations on the first day of the symposium. And as concerns my presentation, I'm going to focus on greening of the Belt and Road initiatives. So it will be the big picture view, and I'm going to focus especially on commodity supply chain index and green transportation. Let me introduce myself very briefly at the very beginning. So I'm associate professor at Lazarski University. It's private-owned university, one of the best private ones in Poland. And I'm director of Logistics and Innovation Center there. Previously, I was working at Warsaw School of Economics, which is a state-owned university. And I was employed first in logistics department and then in innovation management department. Okay, but let's start with the presentation. Sorry, okay. Road and Belt Initiative, it was presented first by the President of China, Xi Jinping, in the year 2013. And at that time, the expectation was that this project is going to cover around 65 countries. But the reality exceeded expectations. And as we can see on the slide, a year ago, nearly 150 countries have been participating in this initiative. So it means it's really huge global project. Here we can see the map of countries that have signed the Belt and Road Agreement with China. And we can see that on this map are also our countries, I mean Turkey and Poland, and both of these countries have signed the agreement in the same year. It means 2015. As concerns Chinese financial engagement in different sectors, from the very beginning, there was focus on two of them, mainly energetic projects and transport project. Transport is in gray color, orange is in energy, sorry, is in orange. So we can see that during this whole time, I mean from the year 2013 till 2023, the focus was on these projects, transport and energy. As concerns the regional engagement, so Chinese investments were present in many countries, but the focus was and is mainly on Asian countries. As concerns transportation modes, we can see it here on the picture that that investment in rail and roads have been on the first place. And financial engagement of China is also, first of all, focusing on rail and roads, what we can see from this picture on the right-hand side. And let me show you just some examples of transportation and logistics projects and corridor that have been realized in the framework of Belt and Road Initiative. We can see from the list that they are mainly transportation corridors or seaports, and that they are mainly located in Asia. So from this presentation, we can see that Belt and Road Initiative is definitely mega project. A mega project is, as we can see, a large-scale undertaking, and the cost of such a project exceeds $1 billion. Mega projects, they take many years and involve many public and private entities. They are also transformative in nature. So it's how the Belt and Road initiatives looks like. But for these many years, environmental perspective was lacking. The focus was on mega projects, on huge financial investment, on building infrastructure, but environmental elements or social focus, they were missing. And the reason for it was, of course, the lack of focus on green aspects, just because there was not such a strong expectation to focus on it. But it changed around the year 2020. It was mainly the impact of external concerns about China's policy about coal-based economy. And as we can see from this picture, till the year 2018, China, based mainly on host country principles concerning investments and I would say green and social approach. What does it mean? It means that in case of countries with weak governance, in case of countries in war, or in case of corrupted countries, it is very easy to get permission for investments without paying attention to social or environmental issues. And especially it was the case in not well-developed Asian countries. So it's the meaning of this picture that till the year 2018, China mainly based on host country principles while investing there. But as we can see, from the year 2020, it was a shift, and China introduced Chinese standards or international standards or Chinese standards that are in line with international standards towards being green and sustainable. And let me show you some of regulatory. Let me show the regulatory framework. I mean the regulatory changes that China introduced in the year 2020. It has been the Green Development Guidance. Its ambitious environmental evaluation framework for all types of overseas projects. And it has been implemented by Belt and Road Initiative Green Development Coalition. And also China Council for International Cooperation on Environment and Development supported an exit of coal, which is important in terms of being environmentally friendly. China also signed over 50 cooperation documents on environmental protection and around 30 partnership on green development with another countries. And that's not all. So besides regulation framework, China decided to introduce a supply chain index that should help to monitor how green Belt and Road Initiative is and how green are supply chains that are in action thanks to Belt and Road Initiative. This index, Green Commodity Supply Chain Index, is aimed to help Chinese government agencies, but also companies and financial institutions to navigate the projects that are part of Belt and Road Initiative. And the focus is on environmental and social factors. So let me tell you what are the elements, what are the components of this green commodity supply chain index. There are several of them. Forest loss. It refers to the loss of forest area due to investment into agriculture. The second one is water stress. It's about the availability of drinkable water. Then the next one is yield growth. Then risk of illegality. So it means the risk that a soft commodity supply chain might suffer from illegal activities. And the last one, sub-factor, is human development. It's about well-being and of people living in regions where China invests and where these soft commodities are produced. What's interesting, this tool, I mean, this green commodity supply chain index, should be easy to use. It means it should be, it is going to present, so it's, sorry, it's being presented in a graphical form as well. So green color on the map means low risk, yellow color means medium risk, and red color on the map means high risk. And it means for the investors, for the banks, for the Chinese government, that they should pay a special attention to regions marked in yellow and especially in red, because it means that these regions, this jurisdiction should undergo a thorough scrutiny. And before investing their money or signing contracts, it should be proven that environmentally friendly and sustainable and social friendly projects can be undertaken in these regions. Another aspect of using of this index is a special index for soft commodities. Soft commodities are agricultural products. Hard commodities are products like coal, for example. So they are extracted from soil, and soft commodity are agricultural products, and they are considered especially important in terms of being green or environmentally friendly, because they are the cause of 40 to 50% of the world's tropical deforestation. And it's just because when the fields are needed for soya, for beans, for example, or palm oil, then it means deforestation. And then tropical deforestation is a major contributor to climate change. So that's why the proposal that should be also be special soft commodity supply chain index to track the changes in environment caused by soft commodities. And beside this, China is also stressing green transportation right now. So it means when they are projects, here we have one example of Turkish located project. So China stresses green development achievements in these transportation projects. Like here, for example, is low carbon travel possible because it's railway corridor. And as we can see, also it is focused on local enterprises that are taking part in this project. They are another example, is like China-Laos railway projects. One again, we can see that there is focus on protection of elephants, for example. So it's ecological railway, it's eco-friendly railway, and green power supply is used to facilitate it. The same with the project in Brunei, technologies that are eco-friendly. Investment in Croatia, it's Play-Such Bridge. Once again, there is stressed that there is bubble curtain noise reduction measures used, that this investment has been done in environmentally friendly way. And another example, in Pakistan, the motorway that has been built there, once again, it's focused on environmental issues, that it's green and eco-friendly, that there is green corridor for animal migration created. And last one example from Cambodia, and once again, green development achievements are underlined. So, summarizing all this, what we can see right now, it's the greening of Belt and Road Initiative. And it means that there are regulations like the Green Development Guidance that are supporting green solutions in Belt and Road Initiative, in Belt and Road projects. They are tools that are implemented that help to navigate green developments in Belt and Road Initiative, and its Green Supply Chain Commodity Index that helps to navigate it. And there is focus on green development achievements in the framework of Belt and Road Initiative. So to summarize it, we can say that nowadays there is rather small and beautiful approach instead of mega project approach to Belt and Road Initiative. So it means that China focuses its attention on regional aspects, on environmentally friendly aspects, while realizing the project is in the framework of Belt and Road Initiative. And let's hope that it's just the beginning of a broader and deeper approach towards environmentally friendly Belt and Road Initiative. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, so please ask.
Thank you, Professor Rutkowska. You heard any question for Professor?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, please, Mr. Korkmaz Yürek.
Okay, thank you very much. Excuse me, because I cannot see you. Can you see me?
Yeah, we all see you.
I don't know how to do it that I could see you. It would be much nicer. Do you have any instructions? Or if not, I can manage, but it would be just nicer to
Professor Alexandra, you can finish your screen share and you can see us.
Yeah, just turn the screen share. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It works. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Miss Alexandra, can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Sorry, first of all, I couldn't open my camera, but I have a question.
Sure.
Miss Alexandra, actually, my question is about China's green approach. As you know, in China, certain regions are reserved for the production of certain products. So, do the government have different regulations regarding environmentally friendly approaches in these regions? So in this context, long story short, what kind of balance will be formed between China's production ambition and its green approach? So which one do you think will win in future?
Very good question, but I'm afraid that I'm not able to answer it in the way you would expect it. So look, I think that it's that China has been under the international pressure to change its approach towards international investment and towards also their actions inside of the country, because as we are all aware, China has been not a good example as concerns environmentally friendly practices. So I would rather expect that Chinese approach will be just to do what's necessary because of PR aspects. So to do what's necessary in being eco-friendly, and they will rather still focus on being super economical power, and that the main focus will be on it. So I would be very happy if they would change their mind in depth as concerns the approach, if environment would be the crucial thing, but I'm afraid that it won't be so, that it will be rather in such extent which is expected by international audience.
Thank you very much, Ms. Alexandra.
Thank you.
Economic power brings with its certain problems along with it. Yes.
Unfortunately, it works like this. You are right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, more questions for Professor Rutkowska.
So I have a question to Professor.
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting and inspiring approach. I have also done a short study in Belt and Road Initiative. I wrote a report from World Bank. They state Belt and Road Initiative supports infrastructures is estimated to increase the carbon dioxide emission by 0.3% worldwide. So actually there's some concern here. So that's why, therefore, some countries are hesitate to join this initiative. So my question is, considering concern about increasing carbon emission, the fact that the green investments are particularly high costly in reducing environmental impact of Belt and Road initiative poses a major problem for some corridor economics. What do you think about this issue? Because if we look at some reports for BRI, they state these mega projects, it's very costly. So that's why some corridors hesitate to join these initiatives.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether I've have understood you well. The question is about why some countries are not going to join the initiative because of the costs of another issues, yes?
Yeah, yeah.
So
and they believe that also the World Bank's report, it says that these initiatives increase the carbon dioxide emissions worldwide 0.3. So they state that, and some countries think there is some dilemma here.
Okay, so look, I think that it's very complicated subject because it's about geopolitics, it's about transportation, it's about finance. So it's about many, many things. So for example, Poland is not very involved in Belt and Road initiative because of political reasons, because we are rather more connected with United States, which are in conflict, as you know, with China, economical conflict. And it's the reason, for example, why are we not very in these projects. Hungary is completely different example. So they are cooperating with China a lot. So I think that are also political reasons why some countries are going to participate or not. And it may be kind of excuse saying something else, that we are not going to join because. And there is also another aspect, very important one. So by financing investments in foreign countries, China makes them dependent on China. So they are long-term agreements. In many countries, like African ones, these countries are even yeah, they are completely dependent. They are 100% dependent on China. And Chinese investments means also Chinese companies who are going to execute some projects. So it's not very beneficial for local economy. And I think that there are many reasons why some countries are afraid of being part of this. And as concerns being environmentally friendly, so there are many examples from previous years, like for example, coal mining in Mongolia. How do we say it in English? Mongolia?
Mongolia.
Thank you. And we say so. So it has been it is long-term contract with Mongolia and between Mongolia and China. And China is exploiting these coal mines in very extensive way. And that's it was definitely not environmentally friendly approach. So I think that there are plenty of reasons countries are afraid of joining this project. And I think if someone wants to join, because of course it can be beneficial, it has to be very conscious and it has to be very aware of the possible potential dangers, because it's possible to cooperate in the way that will soften the negative impact.
Professor Laskowska-Rutkowska, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. It is always my pleasure to participate in this seminar. So thank you very much once again.
You are more than welcome.
Thank you.
Finally, we have Mr. Kerem Kavrar, Head of Commercial of Mersin International Ports, who will present on sustainability in ports. Mr. Kavrar, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seçkin. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for inviting me, and that was really precious information for me, especially the part about Ms. Alexandra, because I was looking at Lazarski University as I have a son who's going to take the exams next year. So that was quite a chance for me to see if I can find an opportunity for my son at Poland. Also, I'm shortly going to introduce. Sorry?
If I may, sorry for interrupting, we have some students from Turkey as well.
Yeah, I can guess. I can imagine, because we also have some friends who are sending their kids to Poland, and they are really talking good about it. So Poland is important to me because of two reasons. First of all, I am the honorary consul for Poland at Mersin. That's the first reason. And the second reason is the company that I work for, PSA, which I will give brief information in a couple of minutes, also having investments in Poland recently at Gdansk. So for those two reasons, Poland is very interesting for me, and I would like to come at the first time, anytime I can. I'm looking forward for that. Anyway, just let me give you a brief information about myself. My name is Kerem Kavrar. I am the head of commercial at Mersin International Port for the last 14 years. And before that, I have the maritime experience on the shipping line side, which I counted as the other side of the table. So that is really good opportunity to see two parts of the logistics and how they are conducting their business. How I plan this today's program is I'm going to show you a 5 minutes video about our company and our main company, of course. And then I have a very short presentation. Let me just try to share it if I can. So you see the screen, right? The video.
Yeah, it's on the screen. It's okay.
Okay. It's just a 5 minutes video, and then I have a very short presentation.
Okay.
Turkey is one of the largest economies in the Mediterranean region and a rapidly emerging force for trade in the region. Every nation in the world wants to have access to a very competitive port to serve their long-term ambitions and sustain growth. MIP is such an ambition. Mersin is the hub for many industries and acts as a distribution center in the eastern Mediterranean region. Over the last 2 decades, MIP has been playing a key role in growing the Turkish economy and global trade in the region. MIP is one of the largest commercial ports, privatized in 2007, and is rapidly becoming a pillar for the nation's future, creating hundreds of job opportunities and leaving a legacy for future generations. As a smart port and logistics player, as a leading port operator, we began operations in Mersin, Turkey 15 years ago, at the heart of vital east-west trade routes, located at the heart of the eastern Mediterranean region. It has a 4-lane highway and a highly efficient network. We have created significant value for the world and the Turkish economy across all major trade routes through diverse port facilities ranging from container, bulk cargo, and liquid cargo to ro-ro and cruise liners. Mersin International Port is continuously improving operational efficiency and customer delight, which is why we are incredibly proud to have introduced Turkey's first female crane operators to the industry and its first female chief operating officer. We've been building ports on an empty shoreline and operating them. Well, some see it as a patch of land, but we see it as an excellent opportunity MIP expansion is such a success story. We are investing an additional USD 500 million as a port expansion, which will provide greater cargo handling capacity and customer support service. With this project, which will add 1 million TEU of additional capacity to Mersin International Port, we are increasing our total capacity from 2.6 million TEU to 3.6 million TEU. We welcome mega ships, which connect 5 continents at Mersin Port. Our customer service has developed an electronic solution to provide customers with essential information on the go that details cargo movement from loading to delivery. Since we're expanding on the seaside, we're also creating capacity on the land side by connecting national highways directly to MIP, which will help us in removing traffic from Mersin city center. Our gate project and gate automation as a part of electronic solutions cuts waiting times and costs for truckers. Being a port city, it was Mersin's historical need to separate port traffic from city traffic, which was inaugurated on September 23rd with a total investment of USD 30 million. Automation and vehicle booking system will be first of its kind in Turkey port industry. We are committed to transforming our port into a global trade hub with the support of our 3,000 committed employees and our strong shareholders, PSA, IFM, and Akfen Holding. We also continue to invest in the local community with education and sports complexes as priorities. This includes building schools. We promote diversity in all forms with MIP and continue to diversify our workforce by bringing more female staff into the maritime logistics sector. We enable our people to update their skills for future careers. Safety and the environment are integral to building stronger businesses for our customers and the society we operate in, with the belief that no place is too far. Making the world smaller and the world economy bigger is what we're focusing on. We are dedicated to helping our customers move goods around the world in ways that are smarter, faster, safer, and more cost-efficient. Right from the company office to the dock site, we are driving a focus on the customer and their needs. On the 100th anniversary of the Republic, we reiterate that we have a culture where the customer comes first in every decision we make. MIP connects countries, communities, and people. In the time it takes to watch this video, we moved 12 boxes on the quay, handled 36 tons on conventional cargo berth, with 32 transactions at the gate, keeping global safety standards.
Yes, I'll also share the presentation. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see.
So, yes, we have a long journey. I will just would like to give you brief information about the port itself. You also see it at the video, but MIP is one of the most successful privatizations in Turkey, privatized in 2007 from Turkish state railway authorities. And since then, continued to invest to the city and to the port. At the very first beginning, we have 2 shareholders, PSA and Akfen. I would just like to give you a bit of information about PSA. PSA stands for Port Singapore Authority, but now they are using the global brand, PSA Global, is the biggest port operator in the world. So they are operating more than 60 deep sea terminals. The biggest one is Singapore, Antwerp, Gdansk, Venice. So they are quite professionalized on port operations and how to make a port operation in a more sufficient and sustainable way. And that's where the knowledge comes. IFM is a investment fund, Australia-based, and they are also one of the biggest investment funds in the world. So they also have other investments in energy sectors, green energy. And same goes for Akfen. Akfen is the Turkish partner, who are mainly dealing in infrastructure investments. But nowadays, of course, the route of investments are changing in line with this climate response management and in line with the sustainability, because they are now investing into green energy, like solar energy, which is something that we as the port is also looking into. So as a member of big group, we are also sharing these core values with them, and in everything we do, we are trying to impose it to our work and reflect it to our stakeholders as well. And as PSA, we have the sustainability goals, and the same goals are passing to MIP as well. And we have put them into stages. Every year, MIP is submitting a sustainability report, a very detailed report for its stakeholders, shareholders, and the community. And as we speak, we are at the very final stage of completing that report, and that report will be published soon. So port operations are very complex, and from the way we operate, say 10 years, 20 years back, they were mainly heavy, leaving a carbon footprint. What we are trying to do as the new ports, we have also our targets in line with the other global companies, such as by 2030, we are aiming to reduce our carbon emission by 50%. By 2040, 75%, and we are aiming net zero by 2050. And what we are doing to achieve those goals are, we have a climate response management team within the PSA organization since 2020, and that team is taking all the initiatives and distributing those initiatives to the port itself. And then what we do as the management, we are doing the same to our employees. So you saw on the video, we have more than 3,000 employees, and regularly we are conducting trainings, and we are trying to make everybody to embrace these initiatives, not only in the port area, but also in their normal lives. So that's how we are aiming to reduce the carbon footprint and trying to make what we do sustainable. From the port operations side, what we are doing basically is, in our investments, we are following the most efficient, optimized ways. And although they are expensive, because I've seen the presentations, and yes, being sustainable is expensive, but on the other hand, it makes your business green, and you are going to fulfill your responsibility to the environment because you are earning that money from that environment. For instance, we are taking measures to employ technology to protect the environment, such as automation, electrical RTGs, green energy. And as a port, the biggest measure you can take is on the energy that you consume. And this is the fossil fuels and electricity that we consume. So what we are now operating 4 electrical vehicles within the terminal for giving shuttle service. But bigger than that, we are also aiming to convert our Terberg trucks, which are currently running with fossil fuels, to electrified Terberg trucks. We also have a pollution response team within MIP, and they are very well trained and authorized by the licensed authorities. Just a second, I'm just going to. Okay. And we are collecting waste from vessels, keeping them as a part of our legal responsibility, and we are sending them to outside for spillage. apart from that, on the next stages, we see sustainability not only the operation side, but we also see sustainability on the documentational side of the business. So what we are doing is we are trying to digitalize our business. During pandemic time, actually, we have experienced that quite well because all we work from home, but we increased our digitalization throughout our operations. As mentioned, we are not only doing it in the port area, but we are trying to do the same thing, recycling management, waste management in the city, and we are conducting some initiatives to fulfill our environmental responsibilities, philanthropic responsibilities, and economic responsibilities, and we are trying to do it together with the city. So what we have done, for instance, is we have Go Green Week at MIP, and we are doing it all together with our employees, and they are really contributing that. These are some photos and initiatives from that. So on the presentation, as I said, I have a very short one. Thank you for that. And if you have questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Kavrar. Any question for Mr. Kavrar? Actually, I can ask a question, if it's okay.
Sure.
Okay, what's the percentage share of ownership held by Akfen Holding currently?
Currently, it is 10%.
It's
51,
10%.
yeah, 10%. 51 is PSA, 39 is the investment fund.
Okay, thank you very much. More questions for Mr. Kavrar? I think no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kavrar.
So I would apologize because I have to run for another meeting. Thank you very much for inviting me again. It was a pleasure for me to be there. Thanks.
The pleasure is ours.
I also want to thank all the speakers, keynote speakers, for their presentations and support for this symposium. Welcome again. I know more about MIP, so I don't have a question, sorry. Want to see you face to face.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. See you later.
Okay. I would like to express my appreciation to all our keynote speakers for their informative and engaging presentation. Moving forward, I would like to express my gratitude to all the participants for their contributions. The next part of the symposium program will commence at 1:30 in Turkish local time, with scientific studies presented in 2 parallel sessions. Participants can use the provided access links in the symposium program and breakout rooms to access the sessions. Once again, I wish you all fruitful and productive symposium. Thank you all for your presence and participations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Morales.
Thanks for the
See you,
invitation.
more or
Bye.
less. See you. Bye-bye.